Shalom, shalom, mishpocha. Welcome to another edition of Ray Bash's Ramblings. Today is the day of Purim, the Feast of Lots, the feast that commemorates the heroine of the book of Esther, Esther and Mordecai, who saved the Jewish people from annihilation from the evil Haman. Today, when people ask me what Purim is like, I basically tell them, take Halloween and Mardi Gras and put them in a blender, and there you have Purim. Because on Purim, it's a very carnivalesque type of feeling. Everybody dresses up in costumes like on Halloween, and you know, some traditions at the synagogue, you can dress up as just about anything you want, and people get to tell what their costume is, but somehow they have to slyly put it into the book of Esther. Like one year I dressed up as a giant bee, and I said, my name is Mac, and I'm Mac, a bee. Get it? Mac a bee. And I was a bee who flew around and witnessed everything that went on in the book of Esther. So that was how I fitted into the story that year. And then one year I was Napoleon Dynamite, and I pretended that I was doing a book report on Esther, and I went back in a time machine, you know, the time machine that was on the show or whatever. And then one year I dressed up as a Starfleet officer, and of course I did the time travel thing again with that. So it's really fun. You know, the book of Esther's read in the synagogues, and every time Haman's name is mentioned, that's the bad guy, people boo and hiss and make lots of noise and have like these little groggers and noisemakers to drown out the name of Haman, because we don't want to even hear the name of Haman. And every time Mordecai, Esther, or even Vashti's name is mentioned, we give a cheer, because they are the defiers, they are the heroes of the book of Esther. And so it's really fun. We get to eat these little triangle type pastries called hamantaschens, because supposedly they're in the shape of Haman's hat, the hat that he wore, and just to kind of allude that he was demonic, we also say it was the shape of his ears, pointed ears. But anyway, Purim is very fun. I want to get into the text of Purim a little bit, the book of Esther. Many of you know that the book of Esther, if you read it in English, God's name is not mentioned even once. You know, and the reason we dress up on Purim is because Esther hid her identity as a Jew until the time was right, and she took off the mask and identified herself as a Jew. Not only that, but God, he is alive, well, and active all through the book of Esther, and we can see his fingerprints, just like the wind. We can't see it, but when we see the trees move, we see the effects of the wind, so we know wind exists. We see God orchestrating things in the book of Esther. Even though his name is not mentioned, and he's not mentioned at all in the book, you know, God is hidden in the book of Esther. And so those are the reasons why we dress up. Now, even in the Hebrew text, you know, it's really neat. Esther 1:20 says, "And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all of his empire, for it is great, all wives shall give to their husbands honor, both great and small." God's name, Yud-He-Vav-He, Yahweh in Hebrew, is formed by the initial letters of the verse. But Yahweh is spelled backwards because in this verse he was turning back the counsel of man. So that's one of those Bible codes that's really cool for Esther 1:20. Esther 5:4 says, "And Esther answered, If it seems good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day into the banquet that I have prepared for them." Again, Yud-He-Vav-He is spelled by the initial letters, as he is initiating the action, and Yahweh is spelled forwards because the Almighty is ruling, causing Esther to act. So it's kind of, you know, those are kind of some neat things. Esther 5:13 says, "Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate." Yahweh is formed by the last or final letters of this verse because Haman's end was fast approaching. Yahweh appears backwards in the text, seeing as God was overturning Haman's joy and turning back his counsel. Esther 7:7, "And the king arises from the banquet and wine, in his wrath, went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up to make a request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king." Again, Yud-He-Vav-He, Yahweh, is spelled in this verse by using the final letters because Haman's finality had come. Yet in the text, Yud He Vav He, Yahweh, is spelled forwards because God was ruling and bringing about what he had determined. Now, Chuck Missler, in his book, Cosmic Codes, Hidden Messages from the Edge of Eternity, has this to say about these verses. The first two acrostics are in a pair, having the name formed by the initial letters of the four words. The last two are a pair, having the name formed by the final letters of the four words. The first and third acrostic are a pair, having the names spelled backward. The second and fourth are a pair, having the name Yud He Vav He spelled forward. The first and third, in which the name is formed backward, are from the text spoken by Gentiles. The second and fourth, in which the name is formed forwards, Yud He Vav He, the name is formed forwards, are from text spoken by Israelites. But this is not all. The word I am is hidden in the final letters spelled backwards in Esther 7:5. And Esther 7:5 says, Then King Ahasuerus, or Xerxes, answered and said unto Esther, the queen, Who is he, and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so? Now the word Messiah, or Mashiach, is found hidden in the Hebrew text of Esther 1:3 by skipping 8 letters, 8 being the number representing new beginnings. Now Esther 1:3 says, In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all the princes and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the province, being before him. So these are some really awesome things that are happening in the book of Esther. Esther 4:17 says, So Mordecai went on his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. In this verse, Yeshua's name, the name of the Mashiach, Yeshua's name, meaning salvation, is found by counting every 8 letters. El Shaddai, the Almighty, is formed by counting every 7 letters in Esther, Esther 4:2. And the divine punchline, and as a divine punchline, God has the phrase, Haman and Satan stink, by counting every 6 letters 10 times in Esther 3, 11, and 12. Crazy, but it's true. So you see here that God's name, the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, is all throughout the text in Hebrew in biblical code. So God is hidden. He is masked by these biblical codes, and it's really awesome and really cool. So, even before the Feast of Purim and dressing up in costumes and disguising yourself was even instituted, we see God was already participating in Purim by disguising himself and putting jokes and festive things into the text of the book of Esther. Because that's another thing about the holiday of Purim. There's a lot of pranks that are played and a lot of jokes that are made. It's just the frivolity of the holiday. Now, I will continue on in the next segment, Purim 2, and I will talk about how even Hasatan, Satan himself, participates in Purim. So, Shalom and Shavua Tov, and tune in next time, Mishpocha.